Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating new idea from Professor Brandon Blankenship. It's called the Socio-Trial, and honestly, it's a pretty bold concept that tries to tackle some of the toughest, most persistent problems our justice system runs into.
So, let's just jump right into it. You know those big headlines we all see, right? A huge court case finally wraps up, the verdict is in, and legally speaking, the book is closed. But what about the people, the community at the heart of it all? For them, the harm, that fear, that distrust, well, it doesn't just vanish. And that lingering shadow of injustice, that's exactly what we're digging into today.
And this leads us straight to our first big point. We've got to understand this gap, this space that opens up between what the law calls justice and what a community actually needs to heal and repair itself.
Okay, this slide right here, it really gets to the core of the problem. It's a total paradox. On the one hand, you've got legal closure. The system did what it's supposed to do. A verdict's been handed down, case closed. But then you look at the other side and you see lived injustice. And this is the stuff that sticks around. We're talking about that deep-seated distrust of institutions, that fear that just doesn't go away, and it just keeps rippling through a community's day-to-day life, long after the lawyers have gone home. Now, let's be super clear. Professor Blankenship is not saying that our courts or commissions are broken. They are absolutely crucial for figuring out facts and holding people legally accountable. But he's pointing out their limits. Their job was never really to do that delicate, complicated work of stitching back together the social fabric of a community, to fix that broken trust. So, if our current tools have their limits, what should we even be aiming for? Well, this is where Professor Blankenship suggests a totally new goal for justice. He calls it human flourishing. And this isn't some fuzzy, abstract idea. It's about what people can actually do in their real lives. It's not about just having rights written down on a piece of paper. It's about whether you have the real, lived ability to feel safe, to be connected with your neighbors, and to actually have a say in your community. And here's what that actually looks like on the ground. Professor Blankenship calls these realized functionings, basically turning those rights into reality. I mean, think about it. Justice just feels incomplete if people can't trust the institutions around them, if they can't feel safe walking down the street, or if their daily life is constantly unstable. When those things are broken, you know the work of justice isn't really finished. This quote from Professor Blankenship just hits the nail on the head. It reframes the whole goal. Justice isn't a one-and-done event like reading a verdict. No, it's a process. It's sustained over time. And the real test? It's whether a community can get back on its feet and actually thrive together again. Okay, so that's the goal. But how in the world do we get there? This brings us to the centerpiece of Professor Blankenship's idea, the socio-trial. So, what is it? First off, a socio-trial is not a legal trial. We're not in a courtroom trying to prove who's guilty and who's innocent. A better way to think about it is like a structured, guided community conversation. It's a process built specifically to look at the here and now effects of an injustice, and most importantly, to figure out together, okay, so what do we do about it? All right, this table is maybe the most important visual we'll look at, because it makes everything so clear. You see, a criminal trial, that's all about legal guilt and getting a verdict. A truth commission, that's about digging into the past, create a historical report. But the social trial, it's playing a totally different game. Its main goal is to restore how a community functions. And who's in charge? Not lawyers or judges, but the actual community members affected. And the final result isn't some dusty report about what happened. It's a living plan for the future, a set of real proposals for how to move forward and heal. So what does one of these actually look like in practice? A socio-trial isn't just a free-for-all conversation. It's very deliberate, following a specific four-step process. So first, you bring people together, but it's based on who the community trusts, not just who has legal power. Step 2 is huge. You create a space for people to share their stories. And the point isn't to prove facts for a court case, it's to show how this injustice is still a part of their lives today. Third, you use structured methods to really dig into why things are the way they are. And finally, and this is the whole point, the group works together to create concrete, practical action plans. And here's the beautiful insight. The process itself is a huge part of the outcome. You're not trying to find one single official truth or force some idea of closure. The real goal is to rebuild the community's muscle for working together, to restore that very ability to cooperate that the original injustice probably destroyed.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but let's make it real. How would this actually apply to a real-world situation? Let's walk through an example to make it even clearer.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand this next part. Professor Blankenship isn't trying to reopen a historical case. He's using this as an analytical scenario, a thought experiment, to show how a socio-trial could help address the deep, ongoing social wounds from a historic tragedy, especially one where all the legal doors have been shut for decades. This is the question a socio-trial would start with. You see how it completely shifts the focus? We're not talking about the past event itself, but its echoes in the present. We're asking things like, how did this event shape the community's trust or distrust of the justice system for generations? How does it still impact the way people feel about their own safety or their sense of belonging, right here, right now?
And this is what the outcome would look like. Instead of a verdict, you get real, forward-looking action plans designed by the community for the community. And look at how these proposals directly address that lived injustice we talked about earlier. A new program to build civic trust, that's a direct answer to decades of distrust. A community-led safety initiative, that's about taking back control from a history of fear. These actions become the very tools for rebuilding those realized functionings we talked about, the things a community needs to truly flourish.
This quote really brings it all home. The whole point of a socio-trial isn't to fix the past. We can't. It's a practical, powerful tool for building a better future, even when you're living in the shadow of an unresolved history. It's about giving a community back its ability to function, to participate, and to thrive.
And that leaves us with one last big idea to chew on. We talk all the time about getting closure, but what if that's the wrong goal? What if the real purpose of justice in these incredibly painful and complex cases isn't about closing a door on the past, but about opening a door to the future by creating the capacity for a community to finally heal itself? Thinking about it that way, well, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for what justice can be and what it can do for all of us.